Welcome to Rain City Church Online. We are committed to helping you experience God in the everyday. This summer, to help you do that, we are changing up our service a bit, and we are calling it Summer Lounge, a jumping off point for spiritual conversations. Our services will be bite-sized, with a focus on interactive elements such as questions and prompts that will help you experience God with those around you. We are so glad you are here. Welcome to Rain City Church.
So when Jesse asked me to share my thoughts for this week's Summer Lounge, I got it in my head somehow that I really needed to come up with a title for all these thoughts. I had a choice at that point. Do I go safe or do I have a little bit of fun? So the safe title for this would be faith versus works, beliefs versus actions. Really, really serious, kind of plain, kind of boring, but we've heard a lot of those kinds of titles before throughout our lifetimes. Instead, I decided to just go all in and have fun with it. So my thoughts today, we're going to title them All About That Action Boss. If you're from Seattle, more importantly, if you're a Seahawks fan, you probably have recognized that phrase right away. And that sage quote comes from none other than Marshawn Lynch, Beast Mode, the former star running back of our Seattle Seahawks. Now, Marshawn's an interesting cat, right? He is notorious for being just a ridiculously tough football player. The kind of guy who just beats up the other team as he's running the ball towards the end zone. He's also notorious for being really quiet and not saying very many words in front of the press. In fact, the dichotomy or the difference between part of his persona and the other part of his persona is so different that it confuses a ton of people. And if anybody remembers back to the Super Bowl times and all the press conferences that were happening, that's when that phrase, all about that action boss, became popular and became, a hallmark of Marshawn. Well, picture this. Here's Beast Mode. He is running the ball in a playoff game. He takes it, breaks through the line, breaks through all the tacklers, ends up in the end zone, and the crowd goes wild. So here's my wife Laura and myself. We're with everybody else. We're screaming our heads off. We're throwing showers of Skittles all over the place, right? High-fiving people we don't even know, kissing the person next to us, stuff we'll never do today. Right? Meanwhile, on the field, Marshawn, very calmly, is just shaking people's hands. Almost formally, really strange, right? And then he takes the ball and he gently hands it over to the official and goes on with his business. Right? He lets his actions speak on the field. Now, like a lot of folks, Marshawn, when he reached a certain level of fame or a certain level of being elite at his field and having the money to do things, he said, you know what, I've got to give back to the community. But instead of a lot of his peers, you don't see the massive PR campaigns, you don't see the social media campaigns that somehow twist things and makes him the focus of all that stuff at the expense of the communities that he's trying to serve. Marshawn does a lot of this stuff under the radar. He just does the work and lets the actions do the talking. In very much the same way that he was on the field, off the field, he's all about that action boss. And I think that's the premise for today's Summer Lounge conversation. So we're continuing on our series in James, and we're going to pick it up right here in chapter 2, verses 14 to 16. And James says, "What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith, but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of them said to them, 'Go in peace, be warmed and filled,' without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that?" James asks again, can that faith save him? He asks us to consider the value of faith without works in this world and in God's kingdom. Spoiler alert, it's at the end of the chapter, verse 26. He goes on to say a resounding no, that faith alone cannot save him. So let's unpack that a little bit. Yikes. I mean, in verse 26, he says, for as the body apart from the spirit is dead, so also faith apart from works is dead. Faith apart from works is dead. Beliefs apart from actions is dead. I think about how many times in my life I've had the opportunity to maybe lend some professional help to people that I know. Perhaps it's just to be a better neighbor, be a better friend, maybe even just be more present and aware of what's going on in my family's lives from a day-to-day basis. And immediately I feel convicted. Where is the action that accompanies my faith? Let's run it back to verse 18, where it says, for as the body apart from the spirit is dead, so also faith apart from works is dead. But someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. So there it is, the line, I will show my faith by my works. I believe what James is communicating here is that the fruit of faith is works. The fruit of beliefs is action. No fruit, Paul? Then what is this faith that you speak of? That's pretty convicting. In the next 6 verses, James then goes on to provide some examples of people that we know well from the Bible to really hammer the point home. Well, the first is not actually a person. The first he mentions is demons in verse 19. He says, even the demons believe. And James asks us to consider in that moment, is belief enough? Because if it is, then could the demons be saved? The demons who have no godly works, but certainly believe that God is who he is, can they be saved? If not, then how can those of us who do not have fruit, who do not have works, who do not take action, how can we claim to be saved either? And then in verse 21 to 23, James reminds us about Abraham, the father of nations, the one who God promised would be blessed and would be made into a great nation. Yet this same man found himself within moments of killing willingly his beloved only son Isaac when God tested him. But he was willing to take that action. He was ready to take that action. And then finally in verse 25, James talks about Rahab. Rahab the prostitute, so at the opposite end of the spectrum of Abraham. Rahab was interesting because she believed in God's sovereignty. She believed in God's authority, and that at that moment that he was going to give the land in which she lived to the Israelites. She believed so much that she then helped the Israelite spies escape, go back to the rest of their tribe, so that they could live another day and come back and eventually take the very land in which she lived. She believed so clearly that God is who he said he was and would do what he said he would do, that she took action. So what does that mean for all of us? All of us in the middle, those of us who are not Abraham, friend of God, father of nations, those who are not Rahab, the prostitute, but all of us who sit in the middle. I think what James is saying is, hey, we still have a responsibility, right? That all of us who sit in between, we are called to show our faith by our works as well. We are called to be all about that action, boss. So we're going to take a moment right now. We're going to play some questions, or I'm going to read some questions that'll show up on the screen. And as those questions pop up, what I'd like you to do is just hit pause. And with the people that are sitting around you watching this video, take some time to discuss, take some time to process through. And if you happen to be alone, press pause anyway, and maybe just jot down your thoughts, just journal your thoughts. And let's just challenge ourselves and consider these questions. So first, how do faith and works, or beliefs and actions, go together in my life? Next, right now, am I more of a listener and not a doer? And then finally, what actions will I take this week to show my faith?
Rain City, it's your friend Scott. We're in the rhythm of investing and being open and generous and free in this kingdom that God's inviting us to. And how can we invest, as Jesus would say, where our treasure is, there our heart is as well. One of the practices we can have to understand this economy of generosity was actually best presented by Fred Rogers when he received his acceptance into the TV's Hall of Fame.
Who in your life has been such a servant to you? Who has helped you love the good that grows within you? Let's just take 10 seconds to think of some of those people who have loved us and wanted what was best for us in life. Those who have encouraged us to become who we are tonight. Just 10 seconds of silence. I'll watch the time. No matter where they are, either here or in heaven, imagine how pleased those people must be to know that you thought of them right now.
So we too can take the time to think about those who invested in us and gave time, resources, attention, energy, and think about the ways that we can be a part of reciprocating that was given to us and give that away in whatever capacity we can right now to others.